Not exactly what we'd had in mind, but it was hard to argue with the results. That disappointing phone call of 2 decades past was on my mind as I paced the hotel room, trying desperately to turn the presentation I had prepared into something coherent. I was about to give a lecture to 500 eager marketing professionals, looking for clues as to why Store Wars, and its equally popular predecessor, The Matrix, an exploration of the evils of industrial meat farming, had been so successful. These short spoof pieces were an experimental mix between entertainment and advertisement, and they had gotten the internet to deliver on its promise of explosive results for very little money. Everyone knew that free distribution and easy sharing had torn down the barriers to the media marketplace. You didn't need to buy a spot on TV or rent a billboard to reach millions anymore. In those days, just before YouTube, everyone was trying to figure out how to use video to go from zero to world famous in 60 seconds. And we had done it. We had created a piece of internet history, twice, and I had absolutely no idea how. I pictured myself on the ballroom stage, my movies projected behind me. At 29, I figured I looked about right for the part of young online marketing guru, and then I'd open my mouth, and the words that would come out would make me sound just as I had at 8. Our ads work because they're funny. Squeak. They work because they're spoofs of movies people really like. Squeak, squeak. They're not too long? I had always done my work on feel, following my gut to whatever excited me creatively. I paid little attention to research or process, or to reflection for that matter. This way of working had served me well. Lewis and I had built a successful national creative firm focused on social change. We'd done a number of notably successful projects that pushed forward the causes of human rights, environmental protection, and socially responsible business. We just had no idea why some of our projects had become cultural phenomena while others just fizzled. And I hadn't bothered to try to figure it out before I agreed to this talk. I had just followed my gut to the edge of a cliff. I was hit with a wave of regret that every creative person I know encounters regularly. It's the feeling of being a fraud, a vehicle for occasional, random, and unrepeatable success. To make matters worse, I felt I had stumbled onto the wrong stage. I had never identified myself as a marketer or intended to be one. Instead, I saw myself as a creative person with a passion for ideas. Ideas I wanted to share to help make the world a better place. I had not yet realized that today's media landscape of unprecedented competition between ideas has made us all marketers. Anyone who wants influence now, whether it's to push forward a social cause, to sell products, or simply to change the way people think, has no choice but to step into our global media marketplace and embrace this unlikely new job title. I embrace it now, but I hadn't then. I needed to find my bearings, and fast. It was in that sorry state that I Googled both The Matrix and Star Wars, the 2 films on which my successes had been based, to see what, if anything, they had in common, hoping for some clue as to why they were so powerful that even spoofs created years after their theatrical releases could capture the imagination and compel the actions of millions. That one search changed everything. It was the tornado that swept me up out of my black and white world of communications and deposited me into a technicolor realm of endless possibilities for breakthrough, crushing my wicked witch of self-doubt in the process. What I discovered was that both films had been written intentionally to reflect ancient mythological formulas. These stories were merely recent adaptations of stories that have persisted in the human consciousness for millennia. Okay, I discovered something that an awful lot of people already knew. The fact that George Lucas read the work of Joseph Campbell, a giant in the field of comparative mythology, to combat writer's block while he worked on his script is a familiar bit of film lore, and the Matrix's Wachowski brothers had followed Campbell's hero's journey formula to a T. But while film critics, scholars, and storytelling enthusiasts had been well aware of the influence of myth-based narratives on cultural meaning-making, I had been in the dark. I followed my search through weird sci-fi fan sites, scholarly texts, and ancient sources themselves, where I began to grasp what myth experts had postulated. Human beings share stories to remind each other of who they are and how they should act. These tales are deeply ingrained in our DNA, and no matter where or when you were born, certain patterns of stories will influence you enormously. When we hear stories based on these patterns, we feel more like we're remembering something forgotten than learning something new. The stories that work tend to be about reluctant or unlikely heroes, think Dorothy, Frodo, or Rosa Parks, lured into a dangerous quest of self-discovery. Hearing these stories excites and entertains us on a conscious level, but also subtly influences our very conception of what is possible in our real lives, because each of us is a hero in our own personal myth. Just as a child looks to her parents to learn to negotiate her new world, adults look to myths for guidance in their much more complex lives.